So here we go. Here's the first one for you guys. Tell us what you think. Will ABS cut down on total strikeouts across the league?
Interesting. I'm gonna go with it doesn't make any change because I think as many times as you're gonna overturn a ball and call it a strike, you're gonna overturn a strike and call it a ball. And I think in the end it probably nets out to kind of nothing. It just levels them back out. But I would be curious at the end of the year what this actually does in terms of stats, pitches. Are guys throwing more pitches because they're getting calls overturned? It's going to be. I'll be curious if there is like a measurable impact from adding this.
Yeah. Curtis says, "Don't apologize." Yeah. I had this because like Willie Abreu gets rung up on a third pitch strike the other day, and he's already taking his stuff off, and he's tapping his helmet as he's like taking the stuff off, and he's already walking down the first base. Right, that would have been a strikeout.
Yep.
Last year, that's a strikeout. He has nothing to say. So it kind of like sparked this question in my head, like, well, could this essentially possibly cut down on strikeouts? Now, we have been on record saying how bad some of these called strikeouts are.
Yeah.
So maybe not cut down on swinging strikes, right? You're still going to get the chase.
Absolutely.
But how many called third strikes? It's going to cut down tremendously, right? But I do understand it works the other way as well.
Yep.
But usually if it's overturned, it's probably not for a walk. It could be just for a regular ball, right? It might not result in a walk. So I don't know. I'm going to go against everybody here and say, yes, I think it does cut down a little bit because I don't think we're going to have as much chase now, right? If the batters know the umpires have to be in this box, they're not going to chase. Right? They're not going to chase that 2 to 3 inch pitch off the plate because, oh, this umpire could call this a strike if I let this go. Even if he does, I can challenge it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. Does it change their approach to the plate knowing that they've got this, to save them? Maybe. But I do think, if you've got a guy throwing a 95-mile-per-hour two-seam fastball, it's going to be hard not to chase it if it's running off the plate. Or those crazy splitters that we see, or the sliders that break 92 feet. I do think there's a little bit of a change in approach because you have this in your back pocket. At the same time, though, there's still going to be pitches they can't help but chase. But I'd like to believe over the balance of a year, this evens out. You win some, you lose some, and you end up about whole. But I would be really curious to see what this does to length of game, strikeouts, walks, pitches thrown per inning. Like, do you find that guys are impacted? Is the game really impacted by this, or are we just cleaning up some of the messes that we hope to?
Yeah. I think like one of my things that I'm going to watch for is you watch guys that have absolute command of the strike zone, right? Juan Soto, right? When we think about guys that command the strike zone, that know the strike zone, this strike zone's never going to change for him for 162 games. Like this is it. So how much more can he get tuned in to this box essentially?
Yep.
Right. And does that make him even more dangerous? Right. So for me, I think it does cut down on strikeouts because he doesn't have to expand the zone ever.
No.
And he can hone in. So that's where I was kind of going with it. But I definitely see where everybody else is going. Like, no, it doesn't change because you do have the drop and drive guys across the league. Like everyone's doing it. But I was thinking more of a guy that commands the strike zone already. When it does fluctuate, it's not fluctuating anymore. So it's going to be interesting for sure. But
yeah. And it's also going to bring back into play sections of the strike zone that typically don't get called.
Right. Great point.
Those upper corners typically don't get called. A lot of umpires let that one go. And if you look at the overall shape of the strike zone that gets called, it's more of like a it's got like those scalloped, rounded off edges at the bottom and the top because those are tough corners to call.
Right.
Those are now in play that where they haven't been before.
Yeah.
You've also got a standardized view. So I do agree. I think there's going to be some interesting learnings from this, but I heard a funny comment yesterday from, I can't remember where I saw it, but it was along the lines of, for a game that's so worried about making the game move faster, it seems like putting this in place goes against everything they've tried to accomplish.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I think there's an aspect of that, like 7 to 10 seconds, however many times a game, doesn't really make a noticeable difference. No, but it is another stoppage.
Right.
It is another time where you're going to stop the game. And I did have an interesting take. Is there situations where if a guy is if you're in a difficult inning and a guy's getting tired, do you use a challenge, almost like a timeout, to give your pitcher a breather? Like, is it almost a way to like, hey, challenge something close so I can take a breath because I'm in a 30 pitch inning and I can't get out of it. I do wonder if you see it sometimes used in situations like that to get a stoppage.
Yeah. Possibly. Curtis says gut reaction. No. Baseball history door says, yeah, the umpires were always wrong in favor of both teams equally. Yeah. Well, Chad makes a good point. You have limited challenges, sort of. So how many calls really get challenged a game? And I think we hit on that last show was when the regular season really gets cranking. How many are we really going to see? Is it going to be early in the game? Are they going to be late in the game? Is it going to be in a key moment? Is that the only time we're really going to see them? Is it going to be a random call, fourth inning, nobody on, 2 outs? I mean, if it's egregious, yes, but if it's close, probably not. But I don't know. We'll see. And I think it's going to be a lot of feeling out for everybody. But we'll see.
Did you see the pitch that was challenged in the Yankees game a couple days ago by the pitcher? I want to say it was Luis Heel that was pitching. It was an up and away fastball to a right-hander, and Luis Heel's immediately like pointing and tapping his head and challenging it. And the catcher's like, "No, don't." And it wasn't even close. It was like inches off the plate.
Yeah.
But you saw the catcher be like, he's like shaking his head, "No," and then it gets challenged. He's like, "Crap," because it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
But I do think that's one thing you're going to see is that you're going to see managers look at the pitchers and go, "Don't you dare challenge a pitch."
Right.
Like, yeah, you don't have the view you think you've got.
Right.
And I loved, we laughed about Chris Sale saying that, I don't see what these guys see. Like, I'm not challenging pitches. I'll leave it up to the catcher. There's a lot of truth to that. The best seat in the house for the strike zone is the catcher. Let him challenge it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because Chris Sale's like, I think every pitch I throw is a strike. So yeah.
Right.
And
these, your head is tilted and you're falling off, and like your view of the strike zone is not nearly as good as you think it is when you're pitching.
Right. Yeah. Chad, this is a great point. It's going to be interesting to see how catchers receive a game now, right? Because framing pitches won't have impacts on any calls. That is one change I see. Now,
well, it's still an impact on the original call.
Yeah, I agree and disagree, right? I think you're still going to see some pitch framing in case, the batter doesn't want to challenge it. I think you're still going to see catchers frame because they don't have unlimited challenges. And especially if a team is out of challenges, I'm framing the heck out of every pitch. I don't care if it's 8 feet outside. I'm still framing that thing. So, so you'll still see it. They're still going to be taught to do that. But we'll see. But Chris Marie thinks, yes, it will cut down on strikeouts across the league. So I'm with you. I think it ultimately does. It might take a little bit, but I think these batters, they're professional hitters, man. They're the best in the world. If their strike zone's not changing from game to game, they're going to be able to hone in on that and adjust. So that's why I think strikeouts might be down. But
I will say that in today's game, it's not the pitches on the edge that get them; it's the swings and misses with 2 strikes that get them.
Yeah.
These guys that take the 2-0 swing and an 0-2 count.
Yeah.
There's just too much of that. But I do think you're right. I think guys are gonna adjust to this and be able to be a little more cautious in what they go after, knowing that if it's not good, I can challenge it.
Yeah. Michael goes, where was this during the Eric Gregg game in 97 NLCS? Listen, I think the ABS was there. It just happened to be in the right-hander's batter's box. So it was fine. It was
Well, it's like watch
fine.
Levon Hernandez back in the 97 in
Yeah,
the 97 playoff run. And I mean, look at Levon Hernandez his whole career.
yeah.
Look at Greg Maddux. I mean, how many
Mhm.
times did Greg Maddux throw a two-seam fastball that like never saw the plate and got the call? I mean,
Yeah.
it was, the 90s were different. It was
Mhm.
even with all the home runs they were hitting, guys were still getting strike zones the size of a Buick.
It was wild.